Ladies and gents, welcome to CG Reaction, and this is Do We Need Nuclear Energy to Stop Climate Change by the channel Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. Yeah, this is the latest video. I think it just uploaded I guess an hour or two ago. So this is the time where I react to this video. So I'm like, hey, what the hell, no, let's do the latest one reaction. So yeah, do we need nuclear energy to stop climate change? Definitely. Nuclear energy is one of the best way to generate energy. It's one of the safest way to generate energy. People think nuclear energy because of Chernobyl and shit, it's going to be, effed up. I think I reacted to Kurzgesagt video in the past regarding nuclear energy and the nuclear waste and thing. Yes, there's an issue of storing nuclear waste, but that's a different matter. That doesn't have anything to do with the climate change, and we can figure something out about that. When it comes to climate change, all the global warming causing gases, carbon dioxide is the major one. Methane is stronger, but carbon dioxide is the biggest issue. All the fossil fuel and coal generates this carbon dioxide. That's the biggest issue. So nuclear energy is the best way to stop this. Nuclear energy is the only way to satisfy all the energy need if we can build it. People have this misconception that solar panel and wind farms are the best answer, even though if we want to generate all the energy that world is using that, we would need drastic amount of solar panels and all the wind turbines and things like that. And I don't think we can do that, or anybody will do that. And I don't think this is right now the most reliable way of doing that, because we don't know how to store all the energy generated for solar panel. People are working on that, even Elon Musk is working on the ideas on that. But if there is, let's say, certain season in certain places are more cloudy, that would be an issue. Some season doesn't have too much wind, that's going to be an issue. While nuclear energy is stable. I mean, nuclear energy and the basically solar panel are the same type of energy. One is indirect, one is direct. Basically, we have a massive nuclear reactor in space, on the sky, which is sun. We indirectly take energy from that through solar panel. While if you create this nuclear plant, that is like sun, but we are taking energy from sun-like areas, nuclear. So both are kind of the same, but nuclear plant is more stable. There is no issue there. Yes, nuclear waste is an issue, but we could figure that out. I mean, building nuclear plants are more costly, and that's what's driving people to say, let's not invest there, because apparently every country in the world is working at the edge. All the money they are making, that all the money they need at the time. There is no surplus for anybody. That's where we are. That's why if economy falls for even a week, people go hungry. That's how bad situation we're living in. But when the day comes where we have abundance of money, we have resources, we have extra money lying around, extra resources, at the time we could think about building more nuclear plants, I guess. So yeah, I think right now nuclear energy is the only thing that will stop climate change and satisfy everybody's energy need. Every other thing is not going to be enough. In the future, it will be. In the future, I'd like to think, there'll be massive, in Australia's, deserts, Gobi Desert, Sahara Desert. There's lots of deserts where we could put massive amount of solar panels. When we know how to store energy, those panels will satisfy entire world's energy. Bill Nye was saying that if we put solar panel in a surface area equivalent to France, that's not much. If you see the entire map, France is not that big. But if we put, France's area type of place, like in some Sahara Desert or somewhere, if we put solar panel there everywhere, that will satisfy entire world's energy need. But we will need to figure out how to store that energy and transport it. So yeah, let's watch this one.
Do we need nuclear energy to stop climate change? More and more voices from science, environmental activists and the press have been saying so in recent years. But this comes as a shock to those who are fighting against nuclear energy and the problems that come with it. So, who's right? Well, it's complicated. To slow rapid
The people who are fighting because of nuclear waste. That has nothing to do with the climate change. If we are considering climate change, this is the best way to do so. But as far as nuclear waste, yes, there's an issue. I saw that video of Real Life Lore where there's a stored, US has stored lots of nuclear waste in somewhere in the Pacific, some island, which is about to leak out into the Pacific Ocean. It's an issue. Nuclear waste is an issue, but we have to figure that out, how to get rid of that. there must be some way scientists can come up with, but that is not going to cause immediate issue like climate change is causing.
Climate change, the world needs to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero. In 2018, 3/4 of global emissions were released through energy production, namely by burning fossil fuels. Energy is a broad term that describes all sorts of stuff, from moving things and people around to putting things big and small together or heating our homes. Currently, 84% of the world's primary energy comes from fossil fuels, 33% from oil, 27% from coal, and 24% from gas. Around 10% of the global oil supply is just used to burn in boilers to make our homes cozy and warm. Only about 16% of global energy is from low-emission sources, almost 7% from hydroelectric, 5% from solar, wind, bioenergy, wave, tidal, and...
I think China is going ballistic, I think, over hydroelectric dams. They're making a lot of them. That's actually a positive area. They're also making a massive solar panel plant. So is India, but not the China scale, obviously. China is basically, let's say, a communist country. Government can literally dictate, I'm going to do that without, worrying about is it going to pass through Senate or Congress or whatever. So they could do drastic scale things immediately. So, China's doing a lot of things. One thing good is at least they are not saying that, climate change is wrong. And there is no, global warming. At least they are investing in that. That's good.
Geothermal combined, and about 4% from nuclear. So we pretty much rely on coal, oil and gas to keep our civilization going, which means it's actually very hard to transition away from them. To have a chance of escaping fossil fuels without throwing humanity back into the Stone Age, one of the most impactful things we can do is to electrify as many sectors as possible. Electricity is the stuff that appears like magic when you plug something into a socket so you can watch YouTube. Every industry that can switch from burning fossil fuels to electricity needs to do so, from electric cars to electric heaters.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a massive change. That's not going to matter much because, like he said, 10% of oil that is burned is directly used to warm up things. Not to generate electricity, to warm up things. But every other source is burned to generate electricity, so in turn that electricity could work on things like all the machineries that require electricity, I guess. So we could change from, I guess, fossil fuels to electricity, but that electricity will require something to generate. So people are going to just use fossil fuel to generate electricity and then use electricity to do that. So maybe it will be a bit efficient, just like how electric cars are efficient. Like, let's say people say, there are lots of my friends saying like, how is electric car any different than burning petrol? Because in order to generate that same electricity, people still need to burn lots of fossil fuels to generate that electricity. So how much you change for the climate change? Then I said simple thing like, if you use 1 liter of petrol to run your car, you use that same level of 1 liter petrol to generate electricity, then run your car will run longer. So you'll use less fossil fuels. So that's the thing. It will matter, but still those electricity will come from some kind of fossil fuel because nobody's investing in major solar plant or nuclear plants. So it will be somewhat different, but it's not going to change global warming that much.
Why do we need to bet so hard on electricity? Because we can produce electricity with low-emission technologies.
Yeah, but nobody's going to do that. That's the thing. If you change that drastically, people have this same fear when electric cars become such a big thing, and people are actually fearing this. That I get it, electric car is better than directly burning petrol engines. But if electric demand goes up, nobody's going to do that. Everybody's going to jump to the more fossil fuel burning to generate electricity. If we can do that, we don't have to wait to stop burning fossil fuels to warm up our houses and things like that and use electric. We can just do that right now because all the electric need we have right now is the biggest usage of fossil fuels. I don't know how to say this. So we can already do that if we could. Switch to, I guess, wind farms, solar panels. But people are not doing that. That's the thing.
Like solar, wind or nuclear. So electricity is a real lever for a radical transition. But there are a few problems making this transition really hard. First of all, in most places in the world, electricity is still generated mostly by burning fossil fuels.
That's what I'm talking about.
And not only that, in the last 20 years, the world's electricity usage increased 73% in absolute terms. While we are installing renewables at record speeds, at the same time, the amount of fossil fuel we're burning for electricity still keeps rising year by year. Renewables have so far not been able to catch up with the demand for new electricity, and so despite our progress, emissions from electricity are still rising worldwide. The other alternative to fossil fuels is nuclear, and even though it's not renewable, its greenhouse gas emissions are tiny compared to burning stuff.
Yeah.
But in the last 20 years, nuclear has basically stagnated. Countries like China, India and South Korea built new reactors, while Germany and Japan have been
God damn. See, look at this shit. China 16, India 15, and Japan, I guess, yeah, 104. Look at that China just jumping like it's nothing.
China, India and South Korea.
Oh, sorry, South Korea, not Japan.
Built new reactors.
Look at that. China's like, you want nuclear plant? Build 100 of those. I have money.
While Germany and Japan have been actively taking their nuclear plants offline.
Why?
Which seems a bit weird if we look at the countries with the most low-carbon electricity in the world that get most of their juice mainly from two sources, nuclear or hydropower. Take France and Sweden.
I guess I read about that, why they're doing that. I think they're afraid of nuclear energy and people are not trusting it or something like that. Otherwise, I don't see why would those European countries of all would do that.
In France, only around 10% comes from fossil fuels, while 67% comes from nuclear and 23% from renewables, primarily hydro.
France is only burning 10% of fossil fuel and everything else is just nuclear and renewable? Damn, man, I didn't know that. Look at that. France is smart.
In Sweden, almost 30% comes from nuclear power and about 45% from hydro. So we know that
all of them, look at that. They are not even causing any, global warming. I mean, not at the major scale. No fossil fuels. Look at that. I mean, there, but it's like you can't even see it.
Nuclear energy can work at scale. On the technical side, because of the lack of investment and innovation in the last few decades, the majority of the world's nuclear reactors are pretty old technology that's very costly to replace. In most Western countries, building nuclear reactors has become very expensive for a variety of reasons, like a loss of know-how in constructing them, policy changes, and increased regulatory constraints, so it can take a decade or longer just to finish a power plant. In contrast, countries like South Korea, China, India, and Russia are able to build new nuclear reactors comparatively quickly and—
Wait a minute, is he saying that all those people who are using all those nuclear energy are gonna stop using that and gonna go for the fossil fuels now? Because that's just effed up. Because if their plants have gotten old and now building new one costs more money and people don't know how to create them, so it's gonna cost even more money. And it's gonna take time, so they're just gonna jump to fossil fuel. Is that how it's gonna go? Because that's just effed up if that's the case. We are screwed if that's gonna happen. We are already at the edge when it comes to global warming. There'll be a limit. If we cross it, it's gonna create this, basically an effect that's gonna be irreversible. And we're gonna reach a point where it's gonna be really hard to come from. Global warming will just go ridiculously high.
And at a competitive cost. Still, generally in the West, the current generation of nuclear power plants are more expensive to build and maintain than most fossil fuel alternatives. There are also the concerns about nuclear waste and the fear of accidents, but we cover those in other videos in more detail. We have designs for nuclear reactors that solve many of their problems, namely small reactors that take less time and money to get started. There are also next-generation technologies that can already turn radioactive waste into new fuel, but so far these have not been deployed at a scale where they can have a—
Wait a minute, we know how to do this right now and we are not doing it. Again, I think it's the money aspect. Entire world's economy is running at edge. We are generating money entire world is like middle class family. All the money that we are making is all the money we need right now. There is no surplus.
Significant impact on the nuclear sector. Considering these uncertainties, some argue that nuclear power is a dangerous relic of the past and that we should just let it go and focus on renewables. But while renewables undoubtedly are the future of electricity, they still have their own huge challenges to overcome before they can take over the vast majority of the electricity grid. The main problem is reliability and consistency. It's not always windy and the sun doesn't always shine, especially in the mornings and evenings when humans need the most electricity. The variations between seasons don't make this issue easier. To make renewables reliable and not risk blackouts, we need massive storage capacities where we can save energy collected when the sun or wind are at their peak and release it later when we actually need it. Until this is possible, other sources of electricity need to provide a controllable load that creates the reliability of supply that our civilization needs to run properly. Eventually, we will be able to do this with renewables, but we need a lot of batteries or storage power plants.
Look, I think, look, I'm just going to be honest. I'm thinking that renewable energy is going to be the energy for the future. Fossil fuels and nuclear plants will be stopped completely is, I think, a wishful thinking. I don't think those renewable energy is stable enough to ensure electricity without any issues. So nuclear energy has to be the main energy going forward. That's why whenever you see any futuristic games or movies or anything, they have nuclear reactors. Because that's the most efficient way to make energy. That's basically creating a small sun to harness all the energy. Everything around it, like he said, we have ways and technology already to do something with the nuclear waste. But saying that there's just going to be wind farms or solar panels that's going to supply entire world, I think that's a wishful thinking. And that's just after what if let's say a volcano erupts and basically that creates a massive cloud over certain region or even the entire planet for just a week. What's going to happen to the solar panels? I mean, I don't think that's going to be the main thing.
Right now, we simply don't have the tech and the capacities to make this transition fast enough to replace fossil fuels. But even if we could, there's another aspect we have to take into account. We're not just trying to kick fossil fuels out of electricity, we're trying to replace energy with electricity. If we're going to electrify sectors that currently use fossil fuels, like cars or heating, we will need significantly more electricity than we're currently using everywhere around the world. And if the electricity needs of the world population continue to grow as they have over the last 20 years, we'll need even more. It all comes down to one thing. No energy source is perfect. All have their own unique problems. Both renewables and nuclear energy require time, investment, and technological innovation. On their own, neither is ready to remove fossil fuels from our electricity grid, although activists on both sides claim that they are. In the end, the question is how we want to deal with all these challenges. Should we give up nuclear immediately and at least temporarily accept higher emissions?
No.
Will we try to extend the life of current nuclear reactors and shut them down afterwards while solving the
nuclear waste is not that much of an immediate issue, man, like the global warming is. Why would you want to get rid of them? I mean, economical reason, I understand that we don't have money, but apart from that, no.
The shortcomings of renewables? Or will we invest in new nuclear technology to get new nuclear reactor types that are cheaper and safer?
That's the way.
Or will we maybe do both? Opinion part starts here.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion part started before the video starts, but look, man, here's the thing. Rockets were much expensive before Elon Musk came, and now they're usable. I mean, innovations. If you just set a goal like nuclear energy is it, now figure out what to do with the waste, people will eventually come up with something. Yes, saying no to nuclear power will result in more fossil fuel burning, and I don't see renewable becoming that big anytime sooner, and we are literally working at the edge right now. So next few decades are going to be very critical.
Considering the risks that climate change poses for the biosphere and humanity, any technology that has a chance of contributing to a solution should be pursued.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just good risk management and strategy. If preventing rapid climate change as quickly as possible is our goal, it might be a good idea to see nuclear and renewables not as opponents, but as partners. We know there's no time to waste, so we should keep all of our low-emission players on the field. As things are, both nuclear and renewables need innovation and investment. But if we don't know yet which technology will be ready how quickly, why not just invest in both and see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, people what don't realize is, if we keep burning fossil fuels, it's not going to be, okay, we are at crossing the no return zone, and now doesn't matter what happens, we are going to kill ourselves like that. No, there will be a point where, oh shit, we touched it, we came to the end. Now this drastic measure. So now, all the electricity is going to get taxed at such a rate that nobody will be able to use it. There will be no electricity for most people. That's where we are headed. So we need nuclear energy. Otherwise, there will be a time where most people don't have electricity.
And on the topic of current capacities, if we take nuclear energy offline right now, then that missing capacity will be replaced, at least partially, by fossil fuels. Even if new nuclear power plants in the West are expensive, in the long run it may be cheaper to build them as long as they prevent more fossil fuel capacity being added and paying for the consequences of rapid climate change. So, do we need nuclear energy? Well, it really depends how hard we choose to make things for ourselves. And in a world that's already having a really hard time quitting fossil fuels, why should we make things harder than necessary? Starting the change process and trying something new is always difficult. Luckily, you don't have to do it all on your own. If you want to get out of a rut, we've got something for you. We are big fans of Skillshare, an online...
Yeah, people, go to skillshare.com/Kurzgesagt in a nutshell, 0 something. Go to the original page, there's a link there. Yeah, this is a great channel, and I don't think nuclear energy is really a must. We cannot see that as optional. We cannot put it aside. Right now we are at a critical stage, and solar panels and wind energy, I don't see that becoming big thing for a long enough time. So nuclear energy is the way to go. Right now fossil fuels are the primary source. We need to make nuclear energy primary source before we develop solar panels and wind energy. Before that can become primary source. There is a gap between fossil fuels and renewable energy, basically solar panel and wind energy. There's a gap, and that gap must be filled with nuclear energy. Otherwise, we are screwed. Like I said, there will be a time, nobody will say anything. All right, burn fossil fuels, who cares? There will be a time like, whoa, shit, now we are literally at the end. Entire world will, gather up. Even the people who denied has to be or will be forced to accept the global warming and climate change is real. It's not just real, we are at the end of it, critical stage. And at that time, everybody will suddenly come to conclusion, screw it, let's tax the electricity. It will be taxed at such a high rate that most people won't be able to use electricity. Doesn't matter how much you I guess, protest, that's what's going to be reality. Because otherwise, everybody dies. And at that time, most people won't have electricity. So that's not a good way. Nuclear energy has to be there. I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction, there's a link in the description. Check out the cast wall of the play, check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.